What if I told you that Lewis Hamilton's shocking crash at the Dutch Grand Prix wasn't simply down to a wet track or a momentary lapse in concentration? What if I told you that the seven-time world champion's brutally honest post-race comments may have just revealed a fundamental flaw in Ferrari's championship hopes? And what if this revelation has sparked a chain of doubt suggesting that Hamilton's blockbuster move to Ferrari, the most anticipated transfer in modern Formula One history, could already be unraveling right in front of us? These aren't just dramatic hypotheticals. The proof is right there in Hamilton's own words following his heavy crash at Turn 3 in Zandvoort, words that have sent shockwaves through Maranello and left the entire F1 paddock buzzing. Let's start with the raw facts. 23 laps into the Dutch Grand Prix, Hamilton lost control of his SF25 coming into Turn 3. The back end snapped violently, and before anyone could process what was happening, he was in the barriers, his race over in dramatic fashion. Now, crashes are part of the sport, even for the very best. Usually, drivers walk away, dust themselves off, and put it down to the unpredictable nature of racing. But not this time. Hamilton didn't hide behind the usual cliches or blame the rain or a split-second miscalculation. Instead, he spoke with a brutal honesty that stunned the entire paddock. No rehearsed PR lines, no vague technical jargon, no deflection. What he delivered was one of the most emotionally raw and technically damning assessments we've heard from a top driver in years. He admitted outright that what happened in that car wasn't normal for him. And when someone of Hamilton's caliber, a driver who has built his entire reputation on controlling cars in impossible conditions, says something feels off, it isn't just a passing comment. It's a red flag for the entire team. The crash itself was dramatic enough, but the real bombshell came afterward when Hamilton stood in front of the media and described the SF25 as unpredictable, unstable, and untrustworthy. He explained that the car simply doesn't respond to his inputs in a way that inspires confidence. And here's the kicker. This wasn't an isolated issue. Zandvoort was simply the tipping point, the place where the frustrations finally boiled over. The warning signs have been there all season. Remember Hungary? Hamilton endured a humiliating Q2 exit and finished outside of the points in what was described as just a bad weekend. Ferrari tried to downplay it. The media called it an off day, but in hindsight, it looks like part of a much larger pattern. Ferrari's narrative of steady progress has been cracked wide open by Hamilton's honesty. The irony is painful. At Zandvoort, things had started so well. In qualifying, Hamilton was just a tenth off Charles Leclerc, showing he had genuine pace. On long runs, the car looked competitive. For the first time in weeks, Hamilton appeared optimistic, focused, even happy. It felt like Ferrari might finally be turning the corner. But in the blink of an eye, that fragile hope was destroyed. The crash didn't just wreck the car, it wrecked the illusion that Ferrari's issues were behind them. And then came the insult on top of injury. The FIA hit Hamilton with a 5-place grid penalty for Monza, ruling that he failed to slow adequately under double yellow flags. But even that penalty wasn't the main story. What came out of Hamilton's mouth after the crash was far more damaging. He didn't just criticize the car's balance. He exposed a fundamental mismatch between himself and Ferrari's machine. He explained that even after endless hours in the simulator, he still can't build rhythm with the SF25 because of its unpredictable rear end. When he pushes, the car snaps. When he tries to back off and drive conservatively, the car still catches him out. This isn't just a matter of setup or fine-tuning. According to Hamilton, even his most basic feedback hasn't been properly addressed, not because Ferrari is ignoring him, but because the car itself cannot be molded into what he needs. The SF25's design philosophy, particularly its rear suspension geometry and brake-by-wire system, has created a machine that suits Leclerc's style but leaves Hamilton fighting a losing battle. This isn't about talent. It's about philosophy. The car simply wasn't built with Hamilton in mind. And here's where it gets deeper. Hamilton opened up about the emotional toll this situation has taken. He admitted that one of the biggest reasons he joined Ferrari was to rediscover his love for racing, to feel that raw joy again, and to be part of something historic. But when the very car you're driving feels like it's fighting you every step of the way, that joy becomes almost impossible to find. These words hit Ferrari like a thunderbolt. They didn't just sign Hamilton to drive their car. They bet their entire future on him. They expected his leadership, his experience, and his feedback to transform them back into champions. But instead of lifting Ferrari, Hamilton's honesty is forcing them into a painful reality check. Not because he's failing, but because he's exposing what they haven't been willing to admit. The SF25 isn't a championship car, and worse, it might never be. Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur has been Hamilton's strongest ally, both in public and behind closed doors. But even Vasseur knows that something fundamental has to change. Whether it's a complete shift in car philosophy, a more aggressive development strategy, or even a radical overhaul heading into the 2026 regulation changes, Ferrari can't just keep patching over the cracks. Decisions have to be made now, and the timing couldn't be more brutal. Up next is Monza, the temple of speed, Ferrari's home race, and Hamilton's first appearance in red in front of the Tifosi. It was supposed to be a fairy tale moment, the dawn of a new era. Instead, it's turned into a pressure cooker. With a grid penalty, a shaken driver, and a car that refuses to cooperate, the situation couldn't be more tense. What Hamilton revealed goes far beyond just a technical critique. It points to a full-blown identity crisis at Ferrari. When they signed him, they weren't just hiring a fast driver. They were bringing in someone who spent over a decade shaping winning cultures at Mercedes. Someone who knows exactly what it takes to build a team where success is the standard. But right now, Ferrari isn't holding up their end of the bargain. Hamilton's words at Zandvoort weren't just about understeer, traction, or corner stability. They were a philosophical alarm bell. He exposed a team still trapped in its old habits, still caught in the cycle of optimism, failure, and excuses that has plagued them for over a decade. The crash at Turn 3 wasn't just a physical mistake. It was a symbol of the deeper disconnect between a legendary driver and a machine that refuses to meet him halfway. Every race, every update package, every press conference that ends with vague promises instead of solutions only widens that gap. Yet, in Hamilton's brutal honesty, there's also an opportunity. His comments are not just a warning. They're an invitation for Ferrari to look in the mirror and ask themselves the hardest questions. Are we truly ready to adapt to the demands of modern Formula One? Or are we dragging the weight of our history behind us? Are we willing to become the kind of team Hamilton thought he was joining? Or are we destined to keep repeating the same mistakes? The answers will define not just the outcome of this season, but Ferrari's future for years to come. And the stakes couldn't be higher. Monza this weekend is more than just another Grand Prix. It's a crucible, a defining test of Ferrari's courage and character. Hamilton will walk out onto the grid with the weight of expectation on his shoulders, knowing the Tifosi will roar for miracles while the global media circles like hawks. But the real question isn't whether Hamilton can drag something special out of a flawed car. The real question is whether Ferrari's leadership is ready to admit that their superstar might be right about everything he just said. Because if they aren't, this season could mark the beginning of an unraveling far bigger than anyone expected. So what do you think? Is Hamilton's honesty the wake-up call Ferrari desperately needed? Or has he exposed problems too deep for any driver, no matter how great, to fix? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more inside coverage of the biggest stories shaping Formula One.